In Genesis chapter 39, we encounter a profound example of a young man whose fidelity to God models the virtue to which all Catholics are called. Joseph, faced with temptation from a powerful and alluring woman, chose to uphold chastity and purity. And the only sure way to avoid falling into grave sin is to flee from occasions of sin, as St. Paul urges in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 18. Joseph exemplified this teaching. When Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him, he didn't just refuse, he physically removed himself from her presence, even at great personal cost. And true holiness often requires the courage to run from temptation, trusting that God's grace will sustain us. Joseph's faithfulness led not to immediate reward, but to suffering, betrayal by his brothers, false accusation, and imprisonment. The dungeons of ancient Egypt were places of misery, yet the scriptures tell us the Lord was with Joseph. This echoes the Catholic conviction that Christ is especially near in our suffering. The Lord does not abandon, but accompanies us, transforming our trials into opportunities for sanctification. To be with God, even in affliction, is a greater blessing than any earthly comfort. It was in his suffering that Joseph encountered Pharaoh's cupbearer, setting in motion the fulfillment of God's providential plan. The Church sees in Joseph a prefiguration of Christ, who, through unjust suffering, brings about redemption. In the case of Joseph, it was not only for himself, but for many. God's providence is mysterious. What seems misfortune can become the pathway to grace. Joseph, though burdened by his own trials, noticed the sorrow of others and reached out in compassion. The Catholic faith calls us to this same love of neighbor, even when we ourselves are suffering. Joseph's willingness to serve and to interpret the dreams of his fellow prisoners ultimately opened the door to his future. And this teaches us that self-forgetful charity rooted in Christ is never wasted. God uses it for the building up of his kingdom. Eventually, Joseph stands before Pharaoh at the time appointed by divine providence. The psalmist reflects, "They afflicted his feet with fetters. His soul entered into the iron until the word of the Lord tested him and set him free." Psalms 105, verses 18 through 19. Catholics are reminded that every trial has its appointed time, and that God, in his mercy, never fails to bring good out of evil for those who love him. Suffering, born with faith, strengthens the soul like iron forged in fire. So let us look to Joseph as a model of virtue, chastity, steadfastness in suffering, and charity toward others. Let us trust that God's providence guides all things and pray for the grace to remain faithful, knowing that in every circumstance, Christ is with us, bringing his plan to fulfillment.